Hi, this is Tim Weaver from CMVG, and I'm here with Michael Gapper from Xbox World. How you doing, Mike?
You're well, Tim.
Good. So thank you to our friends at Games Radar who provided this footage for us. Let's talk Halo 4, Mike. Long awaited, very excited about it. Or are we?
Yeah, so it's been reviewed really well across the internet, and deservedly so. 343 have done an amazing job. This is their first Halo game. You know, they had to just pick up where Bungie left off, which, to be honest, wasn't the hardest job in the world because Bungie didn't really leave Halo in an amazing place. Reach was a really good co-op game, wasn't a great single-player game necessarily. This game is kind of the exact opposite of that. The campaign's really good. So they tell a pretty ripping story. They throw a bunch of great firefights your way, but the problem is that this game, although it pays like homage to a lot of the past Halos, and it's loaded with things you'll recognise, moments you'll have seen before, in a good way, you know, things that have got a nice twist on things you're familiar to you.
Yeah.
Although it's got all those, the game it most references is Halo 2, and they don't. It's not a deliberate, purposeful thing. It's an accidental reference on their part because they've been kind of bottlenecked by this generation of consoles. They've got all this power to play with on 360, but it's not enough to do the things they want to do. It isn't as big as Halo 3, which obviously doesn't look as good as this game. It's not as big as Reach, which again doesn't look as good as this game. But for me, Halo's always been about scale. It's been about size, it's been about space to explore. And if you get 4 people together in the single-player campaign, you don't have room to move. You don't have room to improvise. You don't have a lot of tactical options, and that's a real big problem. Halo's all about tactical options. Think about the most epic moment in Halo 3. You end up taking on 2 Scarabs in a big bowl where you have Hornets, you have Banshees, you have a tank, you have Warthogs. You can take on the Scarabs on foot, you can land on the hull, climb in there, you can take them out with a tank. You could do all kinds of things, especially when you've got a few friends around to fly those Hornets for you. In this game, the biggest, most spectacular moment you've got in the whole game is you in a big empty arena with nothing but a mech and lots of Banshees and grunts and running.
Yeah, I watched you playing that bit in the office, and it was... I mean, let's underline, this game looks incredible, but it's come at some cost.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, Halo 2, remember, was one of the best looking games on Xbox. And if anyone remembers the original E3 demo of Halo 2, Bungie had all kinds of big ideas for this, big open arenas, lots of room to explore, lots of room to maneuver, lots of tactical options, and they had to drop most of that in favour of a much more linear campaign. Now, you know, they still had a lot of good firefights along the way, but it was much more linear. You had fewer choices, fewer meaningful options on the battlefield, and 343 have run into the exact same hardware bottleneck on 360. It's one of the best looking games on Xbox 360. The new Promethean Knights are amazing. They fight so well. They put up such an interesting fight. All of the changes 343 have made are good, but it doesn't feel like a great Halo game, like the way Halo 3 did.
Yeah.
Even the way ODST did. It doesn't feel like the best of Halo. 3 gave you all these choices, Reach gave you all of these choices, and even ODST, which really was like a compendium of great Halo moments, you know, in order. All of them gave you interesting tactical choices on the battlefield, and you don't get to make so many interesting choices on Halo 4's battlefield.
So we were talking before we recorded this about how you felt quite conflicted about the game because the campaign you feel isn't quite up to scratch, maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas the multiplayer, would it be fair to say it's the best Halo multiplayer?
Well, let's be clear. 343 really know what they're doing with Halo. They understand all the basic combat loops. They understand the way Halo should feel, the way it should react. The Promethean Knights fight like the elites in that you can always see when they're going to go for one of their more dangerous attacks. You can see when they're in one of their weakened states. They really understand the way Halo should look, the way it should handle, and that translates to the multiplayer. As soon as you get into multiplayer, it really is the best of Halo. And the thing they've done, they've changed a lot of things. There's ordnance drops now which let you call in power weapons to the battlefield, which means on any given map it's not just a race to the best weapons, because you know, if you play well enough you can always get a good weapon anyway.
Yeah.
They've done a few other things, you know, quite a few notable things. They've put like, you know, interesting kill cams and that kind of thing. They've removed the respawn timer. All of these things are good, but the real big change is the point system, and you'll see it in this video. You know, when you kill people now, you can set the game up so you play to a certain number of kills, but most of the time in the default modes you're playing to a certain number of points. And that's similar to the Battlefield system. It's also similar to Black Ops 2's new system, where you're playing for points rather than kills. What you're always doing is you're being forced to play the way the game is meant to be played. Now, instead of when you run into an enemy, like one of the enemy team, you're not competing with the guy next to you over who lands the last shot, because an assist's worth a lot of points too. And when you're driving the Warthog around, you don't feel like you're getting robbed of points because, you know, the guy on your back is machine gunning people to death and you're getting nothing. Well, now you actually get points for that too.
Yeah.
Now, Reach would give you, you know, Spartan points for that, so you could upgrade your Spartan, but now it actually powers the scoring system of the game. If you play almost any mode, you're playing for points, and they tweak the points so that you have to play the objectives. Objectives are actually worth more than kills. Halo's always been really obsessed with killing in a way that most modern shooters aren't. It's always obsessed with the body count at the end of the game. And the point system just feels much more modern, much more interesting. And at the end of the day, it means that strangers can come together in one game and you'll all sort of be playing the way the game was meant to be intended. There's never going to be anyone who's kill hoggy.
So, summing up, where does this sit in the Halo series in your opinion?
Well, you know, I'm really conflicted about this game because I really liked it. I really enjoyed playing the game and I had a blast from start to finish, but it's still probably the worst of Halo. It sits ahead of Halo 2, but definitely behind ODST, Reach, 3. And you know, the original Halo, people forget just how many tiny tight corridors there were in that campaign. Everyone remembers Silent Cartographer, everyone remembers the landing on Halo. They forget that you spent most of the middle of the game in tiny little tubes. So, you know, I think it's probably as good as the first game by modern standards, but it's been, you know, 11 years now. We should be aiming for better than that, and I think 343 are capable of that. I just think it's going to take a new generation for them to do it.